Yay! Recording in progress. We are back on the Ultimate Sports Network. This is the Ultimate Sports Network's flagship show, the best show that's ever been done on the Ultimate Sports. Yeah, right. Okay. This is Real Boxing Talk. We're talking about real boxing, and we can say that because we're the only ones doing this crap. So, hello, folks. Here's where we're at this week. If you haven't figured out by now, if you watch this show, and there are a few stragglers that keep coming in each week, we appreciate that. You know, not only the diehards, but the new people as well. If you've watched this show all the way to the end, and not just liked and no, I'm just kidding. If you watch the show all the way to the end, what you find is that we know a lot about what we're talking about, but half the time we don't know what we're talking about when we talk about it, or at least I don't. So here's the deal for today. We actually have I was going to say we have a script. We don't have a script. We have an idea of where we're going to go and what we're going to do. But we have fun with this show. So we encourage you to like, subscribe, comment, all that fun stuff. Yes, I know. Well, the opening says it right there. I have to go along with the opening. So, yes, we just killed Charles Farmer. We'll find a replacement for him next week.
He's in shock.
Somebody please call 911 in the undisclosed location and get him out of the bunker because we just blew his mind and other things, I guess. So anyhow, we had a couple of nice fights on one card last week. Guys that we've been following and we've been talking nicely about for the last few years. And the question that we had, I think, is as much as a lot of other people, were they done? So let's start, since Charles is awake. Let's go a different way. We were wondering how to pigeonhole or how to place Leo Santa Cruz. What happened and where's Leo Santa Cruz now?
Well, I mean, I think Leo Santa Cruz really probably asked himself the same question that other people were pondering. Where am I at right now? I mean, he suffered the last time we saw him, he suffered a brutal knockout in a fight that he was winning against Gervonta Davis early on, and he just got it.
Can I interrupt that real quick? Just what you said, a fight that he was winning, and I don't think we give him credit for that. So,
yeah. I mean, according to most, if you're a person that watches and you're a fan and you pay close attention, you would think that he was outpointing Gervonta Tank Davis, and he was feeling pretty good. But then he got to a point where he got a little more lackadaisical, where he took more chances, and then he got caught with a 6-round uppercut that put him to sleep. So with all that in mind, coming back out against a very game individual in Mr. Carbajal, that really was pretty tough. And he took a lot of shots. But I think with all that being said, his performance was very impressive because he was getting hit, I'm talking about with shots. Santa Cruz was getting hit with some legitimate shots, but he didn't stop. And he kept going, and he basically imposed his will, even though the gentleman I think he fought got hurt at some point, but he still imposed his will. So with all that being said, I think he came down to the point where he's very impressive. It was a tough fight. It wasn't a pushover. It wasn't something to feel good fight. And I think he's feeling good about where he is, actually dropping back down to more of a closer normal weight for him. Right. So with all that being said, he had to be excited. Now, he had some ring rust, a little bit probably, but I think it's a great stepping stone for him to move forward and trying to get back up to the top of whatever weight division he decides to go to.
Well, you know, as we do in boxing, we either use the other person's nickname or we invent one for him. And I just, as I'm watching this, the lead up and all that, all I could think of for Carbajal was miniature hands of gravel. I couldn't think of anything that would work. It was like, you can't play off of that other nickname that was perfect. So that's what I thought. All right. So on the quote unquote main event of that card, we had the return of Keith Thurman. And we weren't, at least in my mind, I wasn't sure that we thought that there was going to be a return of Keith Thurman. I shouldn't say return, but was there a return to form of Keith Thurman? John, what did you think?
Yeah, when he fought Josecito Lopez before the Pacquiao fight, you know, he looked real good for about 3 rounds. He knocked Josecito down, and then he really had problems. He got hurt. He barely hung on to win. And so there was like, wow, I know Josecito's tough, the Riverside Rocky, but that was kind of a surprise. So here he's fighting a guy very similar to the Riverside Rocky, the Aztec warrior, Mario Barrios, who will never give up, as you saw. He took some hellacious shots. And Keith looked better. He looked better than he did in the Pacquiao fight. Now, you have to qualify that. He wasn't fighting Manny Pacquiao. He was fighting a guy that's not as talented. But this Thurman looked in better shape to me. He looked better focused. He knew what he needed to do. He knew what he needed to do, and he did it. And he got. It always seems to happen now in his fights. Back when everything changed for one time, when he stopped knocking guys out, he did get hit with a shot in the gut, because everybody knows that that's his kryptonite, and it right. And it's like round 9. I mean, that happened against Collazo. I mean, it's been going on for years now with forgetting all that. His hand speed, his legs, his movement. There was nothing over the hill about the guy. He was definitely Keith. And what I'm excited about, even though I might be the only one, the chances of it, you never know. He's calling out Terrence Crawford. And visualizing that fight, that would be a hell of a fight. Just like for a second, Leo Santa Cruz talking about the other champions, him and Emmanuel Navarrete, who I love, who throws about 9,000 punches a round.
A minute, right? Yeah.
They wouldn't even touch gloves. They just come out and start throwing. So those two
fight the way in, right?
Yeah, those two matchups. I think it'll happen for Leo Santa Cruz because he's still got a belt. And Navarrete wants him. He's mentioned it. So that one will happen. Keith Thurman, since Terrence is a free agent, hopefully, because that's a fight that should have already happened, but that's the thing with the welterweights. But Keith did real well, looked real sharp, got the W, and he's back in position now to make some noise.
Well, and I'm going to throw another. I'm in a mood today. Sorry, guys. So when they panned the crowd and they showed the Barrios followers, for some reason I just said that was Alliteration Nation. I don't know why. I couldn't think of anything better. So anyhow, but the thing about what we're talking about, and what you guys are talking about, I'm just making up stuff. The thing that we're talking about is that we have muddied the waters again. Because I think that we'd said, nah, Keith Thurman isn't part of the conversation anymore. I think we said Leo Santa Cruz isn't part of the conversation. They have to prove that they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Mikey and Danny Garcia. They're there, but they're not there. You know, we can plug them in if we have to, but now it's not as if they have a chance to get it done. It's like, oh, well, they're still good. And I forgot who we were talking about the other day, that solid fighter, but, you know, after you lose, like Jamel Herring, after losing to Shafir Stevenson, is he part of the conversation anymore? Well, he lost to a pretty good guy, but now because you lost one, you're down the rung a little bit. Well, I think that Thurman and Santa Cruz are back in the conversation. Charles, am I wrong? Or
I think more Santa Cruz than Thurman right now. Thurman still has Santa Cruz, I think the biggest issue for him was the fact that he went up in weight.
Right.
Part of was a guy that really had power in Tank Davis. I mean, a lot of power. The guy that shows you that he knocked a guy out that eventually moved up to 147 and took on Thurman. When Thurman couldn't knock him out, Tank Davis did. So I think that shows you how heavy his hands are. So that doesn't, that there's no law, there's no shame in the game for Santa Cruz to lose that way. He was a gamer, but he just got caught. But Keith Thurman, it was a solid victory, and I like the way that he came in shape. He showed you that he's really serious, and he did what he had to do, as John mentioned, to win the fight. I would like to see him. I know he's going to step up his game, but I'm not really just saying, oh, he's really back, from the standpoint of he's ready to take on Crawford. And in fact, I think that Keith Thurman might have had a chance to really think about what he was talking about, because now there's some rumblings that he's possibly running towards the other way to go after the Ugas Spence winner, and saying to the fact that that's what he wanted to do initially anyway. Okay, but Terrence Crawford sitting over here really not gonna have a fight, just kind of waiting on something that makes sense, because all of the the hoopla from leaving Bob Arum in Top Rank to now being a free agent, and now who's guiding you? Who do you sign with? And you're just kind of out there. So he's like on the sideline, if you will. There's a couple potential things, but you think that would have been natural for Keith Thurman, and he told Crawford, what is it, like, give me 6-8 months or whatever, and I'll fight you.
Right.
Now all of a sudden it's being skewed where he's sliding the other way, and it's like, what does that mean for Crawford? I mean, people, as great as talented as Crawford is, something's not right, man. I smell something stinks in that situation, because there's no reason why a guy that is talented as Terrence Crawford and that legit with a belt should have this most difficulty finding a good fight in the welterweight division. Or if he's turning, because I mean, we're even now, and I don't want to get too far into this, we're even hearing now that you got guys like Eddie Hearn saying, yeah, I signed him, but it's like he want too much money. I mean, is he going to be satisfied? So it's like, what the hell is going on? Anyway, let me get off of that.
Well, okay. Well, John, I'm gonna ask you basically to finish what he said, but I want to throw something out there just for speculation. If Thurman can't get that fight, and if he can't get, or they say he's got to fight somebody else in order to get Ugas Spence winner, rematch Sean Porter. Don't want to see that?
Nah, I hope not. I want to believe that Sean is retired. I mean, his competitive fire will be, I'll do it because of that. But I think his dad would say, nah, it's a bad idea, and he wouldn't do it. I mean, yeah, their first fight was really a good fight and all that. But I think you guys are right, though. I think Crawford, why he's quiet, is he really wants the winner of Ugas Spence. I think that's what he's thinking. And he heard Keith Thurman, but would he risk fighting him now when he really wants the big payday, which would be Ugas Spence winner? So that makes a lot of sense. And I agree with you, Charles. I don't understand what's happened with his career. It's been mismanaged, and that's on Mr. Arum for whatever he's done. I don't think he likes Crawford. I think sometimes these things get personal, and when you don't like somebody, you don't work as hard for them, and then you start throwing accusations at them. Sounds kind of familiar, right? So that's come in, and it's too bad if I'm right. I don't want to be right. And you know how, if I was Crawford, I wouldn't be able to stand the old man. So I certainly understand where he's coming from. But that's probably true. And Thurman mentioned our man Boots from Philadelphia, but does he want to risk his career, in a sense, to fight that young up-and-comer now? No. So who does Thurman fight then? If he can't fight, Crawford's waiting, and Ugas and Spence are otherwise busy, who will Thurman look for? Will he want a rematch with Danny Garcia? They fought already, and it was a hell of a fight. I don't know Danny. I don't know what Danny's doing either. He's another one you don't know what he's doing. Exactly. Anymore. So these are like retreads. When you get to be over 30, that's what they call you. A retread. But then again, this is that argument we had months ago, Frank, where it's like risk versus reward.
Right, exactly.
Right, and I think Thurman thinks that, okay, I only got a few more years left. I got to make as much money as I can make in the next 2 years. Can't blame him. And I think Crawford, who's older, thinks the same thing. I'm at a point where I'm 34. I need to make as much money as possible. So who am I going to make the most money against? That's why I wanted Pacquiao so badly. I'll make it against Ugas and Spence, because there could be a rematch. There could be 2 fights there. So does he want to risk a fight against Keith Thurman? So unfortunately, it gets very complicated. And I don't understand about Crawford too. One last thing about him is Eddie Hearn said that he wants too much money. Charles, is that what you?
Yeah. He kind of mentioned that, he didn't know if he'd be satisfied. And with that being said, it's like, what you're looking for, I don't know if I can deliver it, because I know everybody said he wants the Spence fight, right? But you got to be able to play the game, and that's part of it. And because one would normally think, if you really want the Spence fight, why wouldn't you sign with PBC for a fight? Just because
take whatever split they offer, right?
Yeah. Why would you just wait and go, all right, cool, I'm gonna sit back and wait? But we haven't heard anything about that. Then he says, sometimes what we heard allegedly that Crawford is going, well, I don't want to fight you now. You running from me, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, but the reason why you're leaving Aram, right? It's because he's mismanaged your career. You're leaving him because you want a better fight. The major fight that you really want so you can prove to the world that you are the best is with Spence. So you want to fight that fighter, the winner of Ugas Spence. But I've not literally heard him say that in a long time.
Yeah.
Right.
And also,
yeah, if you really want to do something, don't you sign with PBC to put yourself in a position to take that fight?
The next fight I want is this one. You guys take care of it, right?
and real quick, Crawford also is suing Top Rank. So there's that. I mean, I don't think that's a major factor in what his next fight is, but he's still involved with that. I'm glad he's doing that because something is weird with that whole situation. I don't believe he's that stubborn that he just says, nah, I'm not going to do that. He might be now because he feels like he's been screwed. So he might be being a little obtuse about it. But the whole thing is with all these fights we have in the welterweight division, it gets kind of frustrating that you can't seem to get it done. You know, and I like the Ugas Spence fight, I do, because I think Ugas can win that fight, I do. But Spence obviously is the favorite. But Crawford is pushed away again, and it 38-0 with 28 knockouts. How can you push that guy away?
Away, yeah.
Crazy.
Well, I'm going to make a segue to something else because John brought up, he said one name, and it's making me think of something that I think is interesting. He mentioned Luis Colazo, and I want to hear from you guys about this because it made me think of something. There's a number of guys, and just off the top here, just think of one or two that are thrown into the mix, maybe when they're not supposed to be, maybe when they weren't expected to be, maybe know who they were, and then they became a staple. Colazo was out there for a while. I mean, he wasn't going to be, well, he wasn't going to be the sexy pick, but whenever someone fought Colazo, like, this is going to be a good fight. Can you think of maybe 3 or 4 guys who went, yeah, that guy's always going to give me a good fight, and even though it's a quote-unquote safe fight for the champion, it's not a safe fight because this guy could become champion himself. Charles, we'll start with you because you're sitting there looking blankly.
I'm not blankly. I mean, I had to listen to what you were saying so I could clarify it.
It's about time somebody did.
Coming into the situation though, before, for me, not saying that this guy is not like, because he has proven to be better, but when I first heard about him or knew about him, this is gonna piss John off, but I'm gonna say it anyway. But and this is John's guy, but Andre Ward, man, that Super 6, clearly.
Right, right.
I mean, people knew of him. I mean, they knew he was talented, but they gave him no chance in hell of winning that tournament. I mean, from the outside, I live in the Midwest. So, I mean, I'm not on the West Coast. I knew about him as far as, Olympics and stuff. But coming in while watching that Super 6 tournament, all I heard was he got a little shot, right?
Can't beat Kessler. You can't beat this guy, right?
But these guys over from, wherever, coming from across the pond, he's going to be in trouble because sooner or later he's going to get into a brawl and a war, and it's not going to happen. But he clearly has shown otherwise that he deserved to be there, and he did it even with Kovalev. I was at the first Kovalev fight, and I watched him, and I watched after the first, hit, and when we went down, I was like, uh-oh. And I was like, I was scared for him, like, oh my God, somebody finally got
blown out. Yeah, right.
I finally got him.
Yeah.
And I'm just going like, and I'm at the fight going, get up.
Oh yeah, he was fine.
Get up, but it just, to me, if you think about somebody like that coming into it with his career, I wouldn't say they threw him in there, but in a way they kind of threw him in there because they didn't think the people that posted it. I mean, except for John in the corner, I don't know who else really thought he was going to win.
All right, John, anyone to jump out at you went, where'd this guy come from? And they keep running him out there. So it's always a good fight.
Well, yeah, not the same as Andre Ward, but he annoyed me because he's so boorish and such an arrogant, sorry, Miss Fighter coming in a second, in my view, prick. But he always blew my mind. Sorry there. Because I never thought he was that good, but then he would keep winning, and that's called Froch.
Yeah, there's another one, right? Yeah.
He comes from nowhere and knocks out Jermaine Taylor when he's losing.
Right.
But the thing about him was he always brought it.
Right.
And since I'm on a roll here, I will admit that I always wanted him to lose. His personality.
So did I.
I mean, and then I see him last week commentating, and he's so nice and all this. But just a real tie-in with Andre Ward. We all know they fought. Carl was still moaning and groaning about that about 6 months ago, and you know what Andre Ward said? Just let it go, man. Yeah. Just let it go. A rematch and all this kind of stuff, and it's like he had an incredible career, Carl Froch, for a guy that was somewhat robotic. George Gross had him in the first fight, had him hurt, had him really, and he came back, and that was a bad stoppage in my view. But he might have won anyway later because George was running out of gas, and he did that. Knocked him out brutally in the rematch. That's another one of those guys that I didn't see him being a champion like this. I didn't see him holding on to the title. You know, he lost to Andre Ward, but he only lost to Andre Ward and Mikkel Kessler, I believe, and that's it. So he beat Taylor, he beat Arthur Abraham, he beat the guy from Canada that was knocking everybody out. I can't think of it, Lucien Boutte. He knocked him. Right. Twice him in Nottingham. I was like, wow. I mean, I was stunned by that. So he was a guy that I just didn't see that coming, but totally ran into Mr. Ward, who just boxed his ears off with a broken bone in his hand. So, I mean, that just tells you. But he's that cliche saying, and I'll leave it at this, he got the most out of what he has.
Okay, I've got one for you. This is one that Charles, I think, if I remember right, Charles liked the guy and still likes him. Sam Solomon didn't become a champion, but one of those guys that they here you go, here's a fight, there he is, and he shows up, and he's going to give you a fight. And then next month, okay, well, this guy didn't make weight. Samuel, and now it's like, he's fighting for a title? How the heck did that happen? I didn't win it, but it's like, this is one of those guys that they just kept bringing out, like, wow, okay. And it was always an entertaining fight, win or lose. Even if he was getting the crap beat out of him, it was an entertaining fight. You always thought that he was at least going to make it a good fight. So there's my guy that just jumped out at you. Yeah. Real
fast. The other guy was our former guest, Darnell Boone.
Darnell Boone, yeah.
Every fight he was in was good. He knocked out Stevenson. I almost said Kurt Stevenson. He knocked out Adonis Stevenson. Right. A bit of a problem there. Knocked out Adonis.
Call the paramedics to Charles again.
And he's according to most that were there, he beat Kovalev the first time they fought. Yeah. So Darnell Boone, no matter if he had 5 minutes to get ready or 5 weeks, he always brought it, always competed, knocked Andre Ward down, had him in a lot of trouble.
Right.
These guys, sometimes they get their shot, and I know what you mean, because there's some guys that are just that caliber of fighter where they're there, but the one thing you can always count on, they're always, even so I was thinking about Sergio Martinez as being one that just kind of elevated to a point.
Right.
And now he's still fighting at almost 50 years old, but I never thought he was that good either. Yeah. Always was in good fights. Always in good fights.
Right.
I got one in there.
Sure.
One last thing. One of Frank's favorite people of all time.
Uh-oh.
I don't even want to remember the career like that, but when I look back at it, I was like, okay, granted he rose up, but he would fight anybody, anytime, and he'd give you a good show, even though you didn't think he would be able to hang on that level. Glenn Johnson.
Yeah. Always a good show. Yeah, whether he was fighting at cruiserweight or at welterweight, it seemed like always a good show. Yeah. And it's amazing, some of these guys. Now there are more thoughts going into my head. The guys that just kind of, I'm thinking Donald Curry. I didn't know that
he's talented. Yeah,
he was talented, but we at that point when he showed that talent, I don't think we were expecting him to be Donald Curry. I think it was like, well, he looks like he's maybe one of the next in a group of guys that could be a champion. And then suddenly, boom, this guy's the best guy in the world, bar none. And then it went away just as fast.
There's another example, Lloyd Hunnigan, who beat him.
There you go. There was where I got that from, right.
And then in the cruiserweight, now I'm thinking of more, but Marco Huck was a guy that was just a ring guy that everyone's like, he ends up being a 2-time champ.
Right. Yeah, and the thing about this game that game, this sport, this passion that we have, is that you don't have to be 84-0 to be a champion. You don't have to be 33-2 to provide an exciting fight. There are plenty of guys, and the one guy you mentioned, Charles, what's your name, John? Sergio Martinez. Where suddenly this guy becomes championship caliber. Suddenly, overnight sensation after 15 years in the fight game. Where did that come from? Wow, that to me that's pretty impressive. And there are a lot of, I think what we're missing in today's fight game. Not to get back to this, you kids get off my lawn thing, but we're expecting the only fights we want to see, the public that is the undefeated guy against the one-loss guy, or two undefeated guys. We forget that 22-5, you can still fight. You know, and you can still put on a good show.
22.
Yeah, right. And I know Charles has got it. Charles has another one in mind. If he doesn't know who it is, I'm going to tell him who it is because I think I know who he's going to say. Go ahead.
You don't know who I'm gonna say. I'm gonna
okay.
see. You sound like some women I know anyway, but you have no idea what I'm gonna say. So here's the other one. Livingstone Razai Bramble.
I was close.
But you weren't. Did you get
it?
I
was close though. I was.
Don't buy you a pack of Juju mints.
See, I thought you were going to go Iran Barkley. That's cool. You can go with that one.
No, that crossed.
I said it was close. Yeah, I told you it was close, right?
Livingstone Razai Bramble. Well, it just didn't make sense because that
was a scary dude. I'm sorry.
All of the stuff that a boxer is not supposed to do and be unconventional, and then you go against some of the best, and not only that, you show at times he had a 2-fight dominant phase, if you will, that he was just looked so freaking good. And then on the back end, it's like, are you smoking the wrong weed, allegedly, or whatever? Something happened, something changed. You got your hair twisted by the wrong person. Whatever it was, something changed. But for like 2 fights, he was amazing. He got
in the ring with some of the best. And in the way I looked at it, they looked at him like, I'm not sure what to do with this guy, and I'm a little scared.
Yeah, he was. And then they see there's more I'm thinking of. Marlon Starling years ago was a really knocked out Mark Breland. I didn't expect that.
Right.
He was better than I thought. He's the wizard. He doesn't get nearly the credit. And then there was a guy that was fighting on ESPN that was like that 22-15 record, and suddenly he got serious. Freddie Pendleton.
Oh yeah, there you go. Right.
Way up, and you're like, wow. I mean, when he got serious and he got a good trainer, sometimes that's all these guys need is they just dedicate themselves, and the raw talent comes out.
Frankie Randall.
Right, the surgeon. Yeah.
Yeah. There's like he doesn't have a chance. What? Yeah, and it's they believe because they believe. And you don't have to believe in them. They don't care. And like you said with Razai Bramble, it's like, I'm in this ring. You're going to have to take me out of the ring. You may not believe that it's going to happen, but I do. And maybe some of that stuff I was smoking makes me believe more than I probably should. I don't know. But you're going to have to do something about this. I don't care if you're the champion. I don't care if you've got the name. I don't give a crap.
Dwight Muhammad Qaid.
Yeah.
Right.
He nowhere to. You hit him, he smile at you.
Right. Thank you.
How frustrating would that be? You hit him with the best shot, he grins.
Greg Haugen. There's a guy that had no business, in my opinion, no business being in a championship fight. And he kept coming. It's like, okay, I guess you deserve to be in a championship fight. Wow. What are you doing there? Well, I believe in myself. Someone's going to have to knock me out of this ring in order to prove that I don't belong in this ring. What was he, a oil worker and a derrick worker in Alaska or something like that? It's like, yeah, right. What are you, like, 5'3", 109 pounds? Get the hell out of here. But he kept coming. Like, could you imagine working next to that guy? That's one of those, like, little guy, go over there and shut up. I'm going to lift this and I'm carried over there. Like, just, it's break time. Leave us alone. Winky Wright is another one that I think of, like, had no business, and they didn't want him there. Still don't want him there. And it's like, we don't want to have a Winky Wright fight. And he kept coming and kept coming. It's like, I'm going to beat everybody. You're going to have to put me in and put me on national TV.
Kelly Pavlick was another one. I wasn't very impressed. I liked his story. I liked his guts, but I didn't think he was going to knock out Jermaine Taylor, especially Jermaine Taylor who beat B-Hop, especially when he got hurt early, he got wobbled. He ends up knocking him out, and then B-Hop schools him. But he still ended up with a great career. Sometimes you just don't, we can all act like we know everything, but we don't.
Charles, I think that's the key of what we're looking at here and what's coming up. We have fights that we aren't sure what, I mean, obviously we have, and as we were mentioning off the air, we have a couple of fights that have been signed, at least we are assuming they've been signed, that are going to be those great fights, or hopefully those great fights. So let's get into that. Then let's talk about some other stuff that may be under the radar. So let's start with the new heavyweight news.
Yeah, new heavyweight news is supposed to be Tyson Fury versus Dylan White, right? And it's supposed to take place in April as well. It's going to be interesting because Dylan White has been waiting for an opportunity like this. It's been a while, right? And we've been talking about three gentlemen for the longest time. There's Joshua, of course, and with Joshua, and then also Fury, and then Wilder. We've been talking about those three names.
As if no one else exists, right?
Yeah. And then you do some other splashes in there, and you're like, okay, well, this guy maybe, but those are the three main names. So, now Dylan White has the opportunity to go against, the guy who's proven to be the guy. Now, my question is, the Fury is the guy. Is he going to come in with what attitude? Is he going to take it as if this dude can't touch me? I mean, I've been against a monster. I've been against the monster. I tamed the monster. And now coming in with this guy, am I going back to hanging out, doing stuff, not training and just taking it for granted? So that's why I'd be interested in this fight to see what Tyson Fury we're going to get versus Dillian White.
Well, there's a fight coming up a week after that, John. That's one of those guys that we say has come out of the blue. Shakur Stevenson versus Oscar Valdez. Is this the coronation, I guess, to say, of Shakur Stevenson, or does Valdez have a really good shot? Because I know against Burchell we said he didn't, or at least I didn't think he did.
You said that.
I qualified that. I said I said that. Right.
Okay. That's probably. I'm going to say this because I don't know. It's probably going to be one of those that when it's leading up to it's going to be flying under the radar again, where there's not going to be a lot of buzz around it. And that's going to make me really sad because you got a battle of champions. You got a battle of undefeated champions. Got the young hotshot and Valdez is only like 28 or 29. It's not like he's old. Coming off the Burchell fight was great, but then his next fight wasn't so great. So you're not sure exactly, but he'll be primed against Shakur. And Shakur, see, he's the favorite to me because he's one of these guys that he just keeps getting better every fight. And I don't think Oscar can get better at this point. And Shakur can box better, and he should be able to outbox him. But that's a hell of a fight, And I hope Top Rank promotes it the way they should. But again, even if they do, it can fly under the radar like that fight in Vegas that you were talking about where nobody was even, it was down the street. There was nothing going on. Now, this one will get more than that because some people know, especially Shakur Stevenson, he'll probably do something. They'll probably say, start playing the bad guy again like you did last time against Herring. And he'll go, fine, I'll be the asshole. I'll be the jerk. I'll be the cocky kid. And Valdez will be the nice guy. And that might get people riled up a little bit. I'm sure he'd do it. I mean, it is entertainment too. Kind of a strange kind of deal to do it, but he can do that if he wants. I think he did it very well against Herring. So yeah, that one is That was a big one. And then on the same night as the women's fight that I'm sure we're going to be fighting on Serrano and Taylor, that's massive. The women's boxing is huge. So, I'm excited about those fights. And then a little thing about Dillian White and Tyson Fury. Fury already getting Dillian White's head, saying that he's the invisible man. Nobody's even seen him. He's starting on him already. And, I would try to do what Deontay Wilder did. I put the headphones on because I don't want to hear that dozer, as he calls everybody, yakking away like that, because that can get me off my game. I don't want to get mad here when I fight that big guy, because that is going to be a huge challenge for Dillian White, and I'll just come right out in that right now and say it. I don't see how he can win unless he catches him, because he's open to counter shots and uppercuts, and Fury is going to know all that. So that's a tough challenge for Dillian White, but he can pull it off.
Well, Charles, we're gonna kind of morph sports here. Oscar Toshiboy, the phenomenal forward at Kentucky, he's a beast, but he's a 6'8.5", 6'9" beast. Came across a bigger guy in the last couple of games, and it's like, okay, you can be a beast all you want. This is your precursor to the NBA, where the guy that you'd be playing is not going to be 6'6", he's going to be 7'2". Is that what we see? Is that basically what we see from Tyson Fury? It's like, you may be Deontay Wilder, 6'7", 235. Big deal. He's a bigger guy that can move. It's not and I always forget the dude with a big, huge head. Valuev, is that what I'm thinking of? Yeah. Right. We discount him because he's a plod. Fury can actually move. Now, he doesn't look graceful, but for what he's doing is graceful. So is it something where the heavyweights are in trouble with this guy because he's just bigger as a heavyweight and he's got talent? Or are we just looking for that one guy that's going to step up and go, I don't care, I'm going to go right through it?
Yeah, I think he has talent, man. I think you don't drop. He's big, yeah. That's major. I get that, but I think it's his talent that really puts him over the edge. Because there are a lot of big guys that fight and they come forward and you're like, oh man, he's dwarfing this guy or whatever. But even when he fights, as you mentioned, when you two centers that are the two guys are the same size in basketball, and you still can hold your own. As John said a little earlier, this guy thinks, man. Fury has shown you he thinks. He's taking the best that Deontay Wilder had to give, which most people would have been flat out. It would have been no counting the extra seconds he did. They would have never gotten up. And the fact that he's overcome that. And then not only that, he told you he was doing it. That's what I love about it. He walked the walk and he talked the talk and he walked the walk. So he's done that, which means when you switch trainers, right, to go, we need to do something different I need to be a little stronger, a little tougher, a little meaner to adjust to this guy, to become more physical, to win this fight. That says he's a thinker and he's open to that door as well. So I think that the talent, though, overall is what really gets him over. I think if he was a smaller dude, he probably would have a little bit more tougher go about it because he couldn't dominate physically, like you mentioned. But I think his talent still would let him be where he's at right now because he's just that damn smart. I didn't think about it at first and didn't really want to buy into it, but the dude delivers, man. You don't have to like him, everything about him, but when a man was by his results in the end, you got to give him his just due.
And the thing about it is, he seems to be improving, if that makes any sense. The intelligence and the experience that he's garnered, he seems to be getting better. Am I reading that wrong, John, or does that seem like you put him in there? The guy that fought Wilder the third fight was better than the guy that fought Wilder the first fight. Am I seeing that, or is that just me?
That's this. I don't agree. I think he's good. Okay. No, I don't know. Okay. Okay. How do I follow that, right? Yeah.
Two opinions a show.
Okay.
Agree with you at least one.
In my opinion, okay, how's this? Sorry there, Mr. Host. In my view, He's always been better than everybody, and he just keeps showing it. He's always going to beat Wilder. He's always, because he's got a little bit more tools in his toolbox. You know, he can do a little bit more. He can move more. He can box a little if he wants to. And Sugar Stewart has said that I want him to knock people out. So that changed after this when the two fights with Wilder. He stopped him the second time, stopped him the third time. So now he's sitting down on his punches more. But of course, when he does that, that puts him in danger.
Right.
That's what makes Dillian White go, well, maybe I can run him into a punch like Wilder did. So I think he's obviously the best heavyweight out there as far as that goes. But you know, it just popped in my head. I'm being like you, Frank. Something just popped in my head, and it's like, where is Anthony Joshua? Is he like AWOL? What happened to the rematch with Usyk? It was all signed and sealed and not delivered.
Don't play that game anymore, right?
I don't know what's going on there. He's looking for a new trainer. Is he called you, Charles? I mean, he's been looking everywhere. He's looking all over the place for a new trainer. What's going on with Joshua? Do we have any clue what's going on with the big fella, the big Brit?
I haven't heard a word, right? It's just like he's just in the ether.
He's in the wind.
He's in the wind. Now, we've got a couple other things that are happening, and I want to gauge what you think about, especially Mr. Farmer, because he's going to, well, let's just throw it out there. We have a fight coming up, I think it's 2 weeks from now. Amir Khan and, I'm not even going to say anything after that, Kell Brook. And the reason I asked him that is a simple thing. These guys aren't that far removed from being major players, but they are removed from being major players. So is this the seniors tour, or is this if I can beat this guy, I can get back in the mix again?
I'm glad you asked me that question.
Well, good. I'm glad you answered.
No, I do think it's the seniors tour. I do. Simply because when I saw this on the paper and I noticed it, I was like, you ever notice, and people say Pacquiao, Mayweather, I think that's kind of a little bit overblown or whatever. I still think Mayweather would have done what he did, just in a different fashion. But this is a fight that I say, damn, we could have saw that fight 6 years ago.
Right.
And I legitimately mean that, because what they both bring to the table, also to the different levels, the levels that they're on, right? That level that they're on, I think would have been more of an exciting fight, because it always seems like these are two gentlemen that come in, that are into the ring, and when they got to the so-called highest level, they earned their accomplishments, earned their accolades, right? But when they tried to go to that next level, they got turned away. It's like they couldn't, oh man, yeah, you gave a hell of a fight, but, oh, Amir Khan, but, it's that but. Considering with that in mind, these are two guys that are almost, to me, we're on the same level. You kind of felt that way. So that, to me, would make a hell of a fight. And that's why I wish you could have saw it 5 years ago. So
years ago, right? Yeah,
5, 6 years ago. But considering that it didn't happen, we'll take it, because it's better than the entertainment stuff that we've been seeing. And they just throwing anybody out there that really not going to try to fight and hurt one another. So I'll take this, even though it's a little bit more scenerish, as you said. It's not Martinez fighting at 60. So I'll take this, because who knows what could happen, and they might fight one another. You go, you okay? Ain't gonna be no rematch. You know, the type of Rocky thing. You want to see it? They gave you good entertainment,
Whoa.
And you don't have to worry about them saying. And now I'm ready for it. Yeah, Crawford, I took him. I'm ready again. Not. Stay in your lane. Enjoy your pay-per-view numbers or whatever it is going to be on, and walk away.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. There are fights, and there are cards, and there are and sometimes we're enamored with the name. John, I'm going to flip the script on you here. I'm going to give you a title fight.
What script?
Yeah, I know. It's long. I'll email that to you later. I'm going to give you a title fight, and then I dare you to get the people to understand who these two people are, because we're talking this month. This is the card. The undercard is Gary Antoine Russell against Victor Postal, which I think is going to be a heck of a fight. But the two title fights on that card. Well, let's go to the one that we know. It's the WBA junior lightweight belt. Roger Gutierrez versus Chris Colbert. Now, if you are even a pretty decent fight fan, you're saying, who? So enlighten us and try and get the people to understand how these two guys are fighting for a belt. One has a belt, and we don't know who the hell he is.
Well, these two guys are good fighters, but they just haven't caught the imagination of anybody, basically. And I saw Colbert a few months ago, and he's good. He can fight. Gutierrez, I saw him a while ago too. But there's no electricity with them. It's either their agents, their managers. Colbert is it's a boxer. He's a boxer more. He doesn't have a hook. And so you go another title, and we're so tired of all the titles that these guys have and everything. So you go, he's a champion? How did he become a champion? So there's this cynicism connected to those two guys, and that's what makes it so hard to sell. I mean, and I will admit this, being the editor on Max Boxing, I want people to read the articles, and I'm afraid if I put something out there, they're going to go, okay. So I have to because it's a title fight, but even I'm not that excited about it. So that tells you that it's kind of a yawner, and it's not like when Figueroa fought Fulton. That one was you knew that was going to be, it was predicted for weeks that was going to be a barn burner, and it was. This one could turn out to be a barn burner, but it's not below the radar. It's below the curb. It's not getting anything. And they put a press release out there for it, which was great. But that was a couple of weeks ago, and people already forgot about the press release. Right. It'll be boxing. It'll be entertainment, and maybe a segue like you like to do back to one of these guys we were mentioning. Maybe one of these guys will stand out so much that they'll catch the capture the imagination of some people. But now this one's a hard sell because they're little guys, and they need a name opponent, and neither of them are names. So that's what happens.
Okay, well, I'm going to defer to Charles here on something, but first let me just state, I make the segues. No one else makes the segues.
Well, excuse me. Jeez, he gets mad at me. That's not true.
You disagree with me, and then the segue thing, you're off the show.
My way or my way.
Yeah, exactly. My way or the curb. Yeah. All right, but seriously, this is, Charles, now, this is the problem that we have, or it's not a problem. I don't know. Maybe there are so many people that we have to cover. There are so many boxers. Again, we said, what was 168 belts that are out there that are possible. There's so many things that when you have a title fight, you go, and is this a Gutierrez Colbert problem or needs a solution? Is this a top-ranked Golden Boy PBC problem? Is it a guy with the credentials behind him all over the wall and Mr. Max Boxing and the guy that, I don't know, runs the Ultimate Sports Network? Is it their problem? Because it would seem to me that if somebody said, you are at the top of your profession, or one of the 4 people at the top of your profession, or whatever, you've made it. Why doesn't anyone want to talk to you? Why doesn't anyone want to know about what you're saying? I would be a little weird about that. It's like, well, but the guy with the other belt, people know who the hell he is. That seems kind of strange. And it's weird because we've all talked to fighters, and we've got an idea for a series of things we want to talk about. When you get to that point, when they hold your arm up and you are the champion, you are on the pinnacle. And then we try and sell a fight with you, and you go, no one cares. Is that something that needs to be fixed, or is it just the world is an equitable frame to shut up?
Now you throwing a lot out there, but I'll say
that's because I respect what you're going to say.
Yeah, I appreciate it. But I think that there's a point where the managers and the people that are handlers have to be involved right there. You can say what you want to about the media. we're to a point now with journalism and the media, even in boxing, that it's almost become a dog and pony show, right? Because it's not the journalists that we knew before. Sometimes almost anybody can pick up a camera phone saying they're journalists. And then those that do make those calls doesn't mean that they, even with these pound for pound lists, doesn't mean that they're right on point. They miss a lot of good people. So when you mentioned about Coburn and Gutierrez, I think the main thing though is you gotta, if you can say, yeah, I'm a champion, it takes nothing from that. If you were one of the legitimate belt holders in your division, that's great. But it's like anything else. I think one logical statement that I've known over the years, I never liked it because I wasn't a person that was about fanfare. I never liked the spotlight, but it's true. It rings true as over the years, is the squeaky wheel gets the grease. And if you know that another guy, as you mentioned, at 130 is like, let's say Cover's at 130, champion, whatever, he's the guy, he's won legitimately. And another guy is another top guy at 130. If you want that smoke, as they said, you want the publicity, you got to make some noise with that guy. You have to go where it's happening. So if you're having two events on the same day, same time, on the same street, and you like, well, man, I wonder why our event's not doing well. And you see a bunch of people over there, you got to let people know that your event is happening. You got to get in the mix, basically what I'm saying. So I think that's what they have to do as far as the promoters are concerned. And that means, again, something we said for a long time ago. You might be the champion. You might be putting down whoever is in your way. You're 16-0, 14 knockouts, whatever hell it may be. That's great. But in order to be great, not good, it takes risks. If you're safe, you'll be who you are, even in boxing. If you're safe and you're not willing to take a risk and move forward and try to let more people know about you and a chance that you could possibly be challenged more by another champion, if you don't do that, then you're going to be the safe guy that everybody goes, oh, you got a nice record, but you won't fight anybody. So if you want that greatness, as you mentioned, and the respect that you mentioned, you got to take a risk. Risk means you got to step your game up, fighting guys in the upper, higher, in the more of an upper echelon on a higher level that are deemed great or working towards being great.
Well, I think when we start talking about greatness, obviously we're talking about this show, so that's a given. So that's an easy thing to say. But we start, as we mentioned with Collazo and Glenn Coffey Johnson and Lloyd Hunnigan and people that they may have not have been the great ones, but they still carried the show. They still carried the day, and they made boxing interesting. Because as we've said a number of times, you don't have Ali without Frazier. I mean, you can say what you want, but if you don't have Frazier, Ali's diminished. It's not a knock on either one of them, but that's because that was so great. You need a partner in this sport. You had to have Hearns to Hagler and Leonard to Hearns and all. You needed somebody. When you talk about Larry Holmes, you say, well, because he didn't have that guy. Not his fault, but it's just the way it is, and John wrote a book about it. Gotti Ward. You had those guys that made it special. And I like to see that. I like to think that there's somebody out there, let's look at behind Charles here, Pacquiao Mosley. That was a buildup. That's going to be something. Whether it was what we expected to be or not, it's besides the story. We expected that to be, these are two guys at the top of their game. Or even if they're not at the top of the game, they're at the top of their game. So I think sometimes we get to the point where we oversell, Con Brook. We're not worried about that. It's not going to be a great fight, but it's going to be what it was. But we undersell the possibility that this fight could be great. Just because.
Con Brook sold out in 20 minutes.
I'm surprised it took that long. Right.
50,000 tickets.
Yeah. Again, it's as Charles said, it's if you're making another lap around the ring, let's watch it. Yeah, I mean, and again, okay, how long did it take the last Jake Paul fight to sell out? Probably less time than that.
It's all about name recognition.
It's all about name recognition, right? So, well, here's a name you can recognize. and I was going to go into the Eddie Murphy movie, The Distinguished Gentleman, but I won't do that. You can recognize this name, Ultimate Sports Network and Real Boxing Talk. If you don't recognize it now, it's going to be in your face for the next few months. So get ready for it, because the onslaught is coming. We have made a conscious decision between the three of us and other entities that have something to do with that we're going to stick this in your eye. So pay attention, folks. It's coming. Tell everybody else. You want to talk about boxing, you want to hear about boxing, it's coming from here. So for those of you who liked and subscribed, I'm glad you stayed to the end of the show. Thank you very much. And how did you do that?
A lot of reach.
And we will talk to you later, folks. Thank you.